School-based family counseling, an overview. School-based family counseling may be defined as an integrated approach to mental health intervention that focuses on both school and family in order to help children overcome personal problems and succeed at school. The heart of school-based family counseling is working with children by making interventions that link the two most important institutions in the life of a young child, school and family. And this is the essence of school-based family counseling, that is an integrated approach with those two institutions. School-based family counseling is also a meta-model or framework for integrating a school focus with a family focus. So what we have here is an attempt to link mental health interventions in schools with mental health interventions with families, to combine them together so that we can promote school and personal success. School-based family counseling, in its definition, something important to note is that the term school-based refers to an emphasis on school success. It does not mean only the site of intervention, which may be in the school or in the community. School-based family counseling is an approach that can be used in counseling, therapy, psychotherapy, psychoeducational interventions across the mental health disciplines, and across a wide variety of theoretical approaches, such as humanistic, behavioral, and so forth. The professionals who typically carry out school-based family counseling represent all the mental health professions: school counselors, school psychologists, school social workers, family counselors, social workers, counselors, psychologists, psychiatrists, special education teachers, and some of the school-based family counseling functions can be even carried out by teachers. What is important here is that school-based family counseling can be used as a framework or a meta-model to integrate both family and school interventions despite the base of the mental health discipline that one functions from. Alfred Adler was the first school-based family counselor who practiced on a wide basis. He was an Austrian psychiatrist and the founder of the individual psychology approach. And he worked very closely with schools and families. In the 1920s, Adler established 28 guidance clinics throughout Vienna. Each of these was attached to a school, and he worked very closely with teachers and with parents, and he would frequently do a presentation on stage where he would interview the child and the teacher and the parent and then demonstrate his approach, which he encouraged parents to use at home and teachers to use at school. And he would do this in front of an audience of teachers and parents. This quote by Adler, "Psychology and education are two phases of the same reality and the same problem," reflects his strong commitment to working with schools and working with families. And in this sense, Adler was a forerunner of the school mental health movement. In traditional school mental health intervention, there's a strong focus on academic counseling, guidance groups, individual counseling and therapy, and child advocacy, all taking place typically at the school site. In traditional family mental health intervention, there is an emphasis on conjoint family counseling and therapy, where everyone in the family is brought together in the same room for counseling, couples counseling and therapy, and parent consultation, which historically tends to take place in community locations. The rationale for doing school-based family counseling is that there's research showing that there's a link between common school problems, such as learning disorders, poor grades, problems with peers, conflict with teacher, and school refusal, and bullying, that there's a link between these and common family problems, such as divorce, marital conflict, scapegoating, where a child is picked on, child abuse, spouse abuse, economic stress in the family that stresses everybody, and sibling rivalry. These also discrimination, which is where discrimination in the community against minority family members brings stress into the family. All of these things can stress a family, and that can stress a child so that common school problems in a child are affected. Alternatively, the common school problems that we just had a look at can be mitigated by involving the family when there are family resources present. For example, parent and grandparent wisdom can be brought to bear on a problem. Family support, which is very important to children, can be brought to bear or strengthened. Siblings can be role models for younger siblings. Homework monitoring by parents can help children to succeed in school, and collaboration with teachers can be very important in helping the family to reinforce a child's improvement. So all of these things can be brought to bear as strengths that can help to mitigate school problems. So reducing family difficulties and increasing family resources and strengths is the essence of what school-based family counseling is about. If we look at school mental health programs and family mental health programs, there are a number of skills that are common to both, and they're listed here. Child counseling, child advocacy, group counseling and therapy, child assessment, parent consultation, awareness of ethical issues, referral to community resources, program evaluation, a multicultural counseling and therapy emphasis in community intervention. These skills and competencies are very common to both school mental health and family mental health programs. School mental health programs, on the other hand, tend to focus on some skills and competencies that are not focused on in family mental health programs. And these are teacher consultation, career counseling, guidance groups, classroom meetings, school law, and academic problem. And these are considered very important in school mental health for promoting school success. In family mental health programs, there are a number of skills and competencies that are not typically taught in school mental health programs, and they are family counseling and therapy, couples counseling and therapy, family assessment, family law, parent education, and parent support groups. So in school-based family counseling, what we seek to do is to integrate these school mental health skills and the family mental health skills together in a single program to develop in a school-based family counseling professional skills across the school and family mental health areas, or pulling together teams to bring both of these to bear to help a child. The school-based family counseling meta model is a model for helping school-based family counseling professionals to organize interventions in schools. And the model emphasizes a school focus and a family focus, and on the left side, a prevention focus, and on the right side, an intervention focus. And intervention here is meant to refer to the kind of interventions you do when the problem already exists. So it's a remedial intervention rather than something to prevent a problem from occurring. The four quadrants in the meta model are shown here: school prevention, family prevention, school intervention, and family intervention. In school prevention, in this quadrant, we see skills like guidance groups, classroom management to help teachers be more effective in their teaching and discipline, classroom meetings to address problems that come up in a particular classroom, student support groups to provide additional support to students who may be lacking that, and stress management. In the school intervention quadrant, some typical interventions would be individual counseling or therapy, teacher consultation, and crisis intervention. Principal consultation is something that you would see as relevant to both the school prevention quadrant and the school intervention quadrant. In the family prevention quadrant, we would see interventions such as parent education and parent support groups. In the family intervention quadrant, here we would see typical family mental health interventions such as family counseling, parent consultation, and couples counseling. All of these quadrants are important and can be used by any of the mental health professions to guide interventions. Let us now look at a school-based family counseling case study. This is a hypothetical case study involving a boy we will call Luis Rodriguez, age 10. Barbara is the school-based family counseling professional who wants to help him. Ms. Jones is his teacher. Mark Smith is a bully in the same classroom as Luis. Mr. Allant is the principal of the school. Mrs. Rodriguez is Luis's mother. Mr. Rodriguez is Luis's father. The mother and the father are separated in this hypothetical case. Mr. Smith is Mark's grandfather, and Mrs. Smith is Mark's grandmother. Mark lives with his grandparents. And everybody here is fictitious. So in this example, Luis is bullied by Mark in Ms. Jones' classroom, and Ms. Jones refers Luis to Barbara, the school-based family counseling professional, for assessment, and this is Barbara's assessment. Following the bullying, she gathers more information, makes some phone calls, likely would meet with some of the people listed on this slide, and she discovers that Luis is not close. He's disengaged. He has what's called a disengaged relationship with his father. The father is separated from the mother, and Luis lives with his mother, Mrs. Rodriguez. There's conflict between Luis's mother and his father. Mark also is experiencing conflict with his guardians, his grandparents, Mr. Smith and Mrs. Smith. Luis has a disengaged or under-involved relationship with Miss Jones, who isn't terribly aware of Luis's presence in her classroom, rarely interacts with him. Mark has a positive relationship with student bystanders who witnessed the bullying but made no intervention and may have given tacit support to Mark for bullying Luis. Mr. Allant, the principal, Barbara discovered, is not aware of what's going on in Miss Jones' classroom and is not aware of the presence of bullying in the classroom or in the larger school. So we can take the school-based family counseling meta model and apply it to the case of Luis. So looking at the four quadrants here, a school-based family counseling professional using a school-based family counseling approach would be thinking about each quadrant and how it might apply. So beginning with the school intervention quadrant, Barbara would probably do some individual counseling with Luis, help him cope with the stress of being bullied. She'd probably also meet with Mark because bullies are typically very unhappy and the reasons for the bullying needs to be addressed. Barbara would also have a consultation meeting with Ms. Jones to explore what's going on in the classroom. And if Ms. Jones is open to it, Barbara might, in the school prevention area, discuss classroom management approaches and how Ms. Jones can establish better discipline in her classroom. In addition, Barbara might meet with the Rodriguez family, maybe initially with Luis and his mother, and then the father separately, and then maybe everybody together to talk about parenting. Parent consultation, perhaps with Mr. and Mrs. Rodriguez separately from Luis, and possibly some couples counseling so that at least as parents they can function better as a team in dealing with Luis and being helpful to him. With the Smith family, there would be some intervention as well, a family session with Mark and his grandparents to explore the tension in that family that may be underpinning the bullying behavior. The principal, Mr. Allant, would also be consulted as we move into looking at school prevention and family prevention. The principal needs to be kept up to speed on some of the interventions that are going to be occurring. In terms of school prevention, with Ms. Jones's class, Barbara might have a classroom meeting to discuss bullying. And if bullying seems to be a problem across the school, she might do an intervention, a guidance group intervention with the whole school, or maybe even implement an anti-bullying program across the school. With the school parents, Barbara might also do some parent education around bullying and how bullying can be handled, and maybe do this through a presentation she might do at a parent-teacher association meeting. In terms of all these interventions, Barbara would probably sequence them in some way, beginning with school intervention, moving to family intervention, and then to school prevention and family prevention. So that is simply one suggestion about how school-based family counseling might be applied in that situation. There's many ways it could be done. And school-based family counseling can be delivered in a number of ways. At school-sited programs, these are programs where the school-based family counseling is delivered right at the school site, and a room is typically set aside for the counseling interventions. In-service training involves taking school mental health personnel and training them in family intervention. Family counseling staff involves placing mental health professionals trained in family mental health intervention, putting them in a school to work with school personnel who are trained in school mental health. A university school collaborative is a relationship between a university and a school where trainees at the university who have not yet graduated do their trainee placements because they have to practice and learn their skills at a school. This can be very cost-effective if schools cannot afford to hire a licensed school-based family counseling professional. An agency school collaborative is similar in that the agency provides the supervision and a college trainee in school-based family counseling goes to the school, or a licensed school-based family counseling professional goes and works at the school but is based in the agency. The private practice school collaborative is similar to the agency school collaborative, except that the supervision of a trainee or an intern is done by a private practice school-based family counseling professional, or that private practice professional may actually do the school-based family counseling himself or herself. Community-sited programs differ in that all of the remedial counseling is done at a community site, And this community site might be an agency or it might be a private practice. What the literature on school-based family counseling shows is broad support across the mental health disciplines, but the strongest support is in the school mental health literature. And most of the research involves descriptive and case studies. The strengths of school-based family counseling are, first of all, that it has a strong systems focus derived from family systems theory, and this is the theoretical area developed by family therapist Murray Bowen, who talks about the nuclear family emotional system and how one part of the system affects the entire system. So when we look at a child who's having a problem, as this picture might indicate, using a systems approach, we look at the various systems in which the child is involved. We look at the family system, we look at the school system, we look at the peer system, which becomes increasingly important as children age, and we look at community systems that might be having an impact. We look at how all of these systems interface with each other and affect the child. The second quality of school-based family counseling is that it's strength-based rather than a pathology focus on what is wrong. There's a focus on helping the child to succeed at school, and that's a strength-based focus. A third strength of school-based family counseling is that it involves a very close partnership with parents. And parents are brought in for their wisdom and treated with respect and worked with closely in order to empower them and help them empower their children. School-based family counseling is also a multiculturally sensitive approach, and this is illustrated by contrasting traditional psychotherapy with a school-based family counseling approach. In traditional psychotherapy, there's a pathology focus. In school-based family counseling, there's a strong educational focus. Traditional psychotherapy has an individual focus on individual therapy, meaning with the child alone, whereas in school-based family counseling, there's a family focus, which is very congruent with many different ethnic groups. In traditional psychotherapy, family is sometimes viewed as interfering with the therapy, whereas in school-based family counseling, family are viewed as resources that can help the child to do better and succeed in school and in life. And in traditional psychotherapy, therapy is done only at the clinic, whereas in the school-based family counseling approach, consultation, primary consultation is done at the school. Or if it's done in the community clinic, the focus is on consultation rather than on therapy. We're here to meet with you to talk about how your child can do better. In school-based family counseling, there's a very strong child advocacy emphasis, and the school-based family counselor advocates for the child with the family and also with the school. This last point is important because just as families need to change to help children succeed, so do schools. In schools that have social climates that are lacking in support for the children who are in those schools, or where teachers are perhaps authoritarian, change has to happen at that level, just as it might have to happen in a family. In summary, some important resources to learn more about school-based family counseling are Wikipedia, the International Journal for School-Based Family Counseling, which is available on the internet. And listed on this slide and the next slide are 11 books that deal with school-based family counseling and are excellent resources for learning about this new approach.